You've probably heard a train horn before. After all, they basically blow every single time the train travels through a crossing or passes by a station. These loud blasts can be a little overwhelming and seemingly unnecessary. So why do trains even have horns? And why do they blow them so much? The short answer is because they're required to. But the real answer is more complex than that. In the U.S., the Federal Railroad Administration generally requires that trains blow their horns to alert motorists at each grade crossing, regardless of whether there's an obstruction or anything abnormal about the crossing. In fact, trains not only blow their horns loudly to warn travelers in vehicles, but they also utilize them to communicate through a sort of code. As the railroad was coming into widespread use in the early 19th century, train whistles and horns were there from the beginning. In the early days, these horns and whistles were purely there to warn others that the train was passing through. Since trains travel at high speeds on tracks and can't stop very fast, this loud warning is needed so anyone crossing the tracks can get out of the way. However, even though trains have been around for some time now, the exact specifications of when and why they blew their horns weren't always nationally regulated. In 2005, for example, the United States Federal Railroad Administration published the most recent rule on regulating the sounding of train horns. This was after bans in places such as Florida had been shown to have doubled the accident rate. Today, each country around the world has its own set of regulations and standards for when and why trains blow their horns. There are also standards for when trains need to be quiet, called quiet zones, in order not to disturb residents. Each country will also have a published railroad code, setting out guidelines on what different train horn sounds mean. For example, in the U.S., trains make one short blow to signal they are applying air brakes, 3 short blows to signal they are reversing, and for approaching grade crossings, the signal is 2 long, 1 short, and a long blow of the horn. These are just a few of the signals, and they're one of the few ways that modern trains communicate with signalmen, rail workers, and cars around them. Around the world, there are also some interesting signals trains use for specific events. For example, in Canada, 6 short bursts signal a fire on the track. However, in the UK, it isn't the length of the burst that's varied, it's the tone of the horn sound. While radios and other communications techniques are standard in modern railroads, there's no better warning that a train is coming than its loud horn. So in summary, trains blow their horns because it's one of the most effective warning techniques for these massive high-speed rail cars. From the early days of railroads until now, the train horn has been a vital part of this transportation technique.